delicately marked Inspector Beadle's instinctive contempt for Guido. As a craftsman, he was compelled, on his reputation, to respect him, and he had accordingly availed himself of Carrados' friendship for a confabulation. As a man, he was a foreigner, worse, an Italian, and if left to his own resources, the inspector would have opposed to his sinus flexibility those rigid, essentially Britannia metal methods of the force that strike the impartial observer as so ponderous, so amateurish and conventional, and, it must be admitted, often so curiously and inexplicably successful. The events that had circuitously brought Il Rosolio and his lot within the cognizance of Scotland Yard outlines the kind of story that is discreetly hinted at by the society paragraphist of the day, politely disbelieved by the astute reader, and then at last laid indiscreetly bare in all its details by the inevitably princessly recollections of a generation later. It centred round an impending royal marriage in Vienna. A certain jealous Countess X, here you have the discretion of the paragrapher, and a document or two that might be relied upon. The aristocratic biographer will impartially sum up the contingencies, to play the deuce with the approaching nuptials. To procure the evidence of these papers, the Countess enlisted the services of Guido, as reliable a scoundrel as she could possibly have selected for the commission. To a certain point, to the abstraction of the papers in fact, he succeeded, but it was with pursuit close upon his heels. There was that disadvantage in employing a rogue to do work that implicated roguery, for whatever moral right the Countess had to the property, her accomplice had no legal right whatever to his liberty. On half a dozen charges at least, he could be arrested on sight in as many capitals of Europe. He slipped out of Vienna by the Nordbahn, with his destination known, resourcefully stopped the express outside Czaslau, and got away across to Trudim. By this time the game and the moves were pretty well understood in more than one keenly interested quarter. Diplomacy supplemented justice, and the immediate history of Guido became that of a fox hunted from covert to covert, with all the familiar earth stopped against him. From Pardubitz he passed on to Glatz, reached Breslau, and went down the Oder to Stettin. Out of the liberality of his employer's advances, he had ample funds to keep going, and he dropped and rejoined his accomplices as the occasion ruled. A week's harrying found him in Copenhagen, still with no time to spare, and he missed his purpose there. He crossed to Malmö by ferry, took the connecting night train to Stockholm, and at the same morning sailed down the Saltsjön, ostensibly bound for Obo, intending to cross to Revel, and so to get back to Central Europe by the less frequented routes. But in this move, again, luck was against him, and receiving warning just in time, and by the mysterious agency that had so far protected him, he contrived to be dropped from the steamer by boat among the islands of the crowded archipelago, made his way to Helsingfors, and within 48 hours was back again on the Frihavnen, with pursuit for the moment blinked and breathing time to the good. To appreciate the exact significance of these wanderings, it is necessary to recall the conditions. Guido was not zigzagging a course about Europe in an aimless search for the picturesque, still less inspired by any love of the melodramatic. To him, every step was vital, each tangent or rebound the necessary outcome of his much-badgered plans. In his pocket reposed the papers for which he had run grave risks. The price agreed upon for the service was sufficiently lavish to make the risks worth taking time after time. But in order to consummate the transaction, it was necessary that the booty should be put into his employer's hand. Halfway across Europe, that employer was waiting with such patience as she could maintain, herself watched and shadowed at every step. The Countess X was sufficiently exalted to be personally immune from the high-handed methods of her country's secret service, but every approach to her was tapped. The problem was for Guido to earn a long enough respite to enable him to communicate his position to the Countess, and for her to go, or to reach him by a trusty hand. Then the whole fabric of intrigue could fall to pieces. But so far Guido had been kept